For weeks and months, the top drivers in the Northwest have been fighting on road courses, super speedways, and short tracks to see who could fight their way for a chance to win a championship. Tonight, many drivers look to lock themselves in. It's the final race of the regular season to see who will compete in the playoffs and compete for a championship in the Northwest Cup Series. Good evening and welcome to tonight's coverage on LSR TV for the virtual Talladega Superspeedway. It's the final race of the regular season to see who will move on to compete in the West Bay Auto Parts playoffs. Justin Prince alongside Greg Rentz, Wesley Otwin in the pits this evening with Charles Wooden in the director's seat. A lot of pressure tonight for many drivers. It's not an easy race to compete in. You need luck, strategy, as well as patience at a track such as this. And for several drivers, Greg, they're going to need to survive to be able to compete for a championship this fall.
Absolutely, Justin. Talladega for the regular season finale. You could not ask for higher tension and higher drama moving in to the West Bay playoffs here for the Northwest Racing Cup Series on LSR TV, your home for sim racing. And we have got a stacked and full field here at Talladega. Over 30 of them here ready to battle it out for just 80 laps. And 80 laps may seem like a long time on a 2.66 mile super speedway like Talladega, but Justin, 80 laps is going to fly by here.
Two-stopper on the gas. We'll talk about that a little bit more, but let's talk about the matter at hand, the fight to determine who makes the playoffs. Dan West Jr., Sean Brightsman, Seth Frazier, Chris White, Jeff Stabnow, Stephen Paulson, John Ottenbacher, Corey Walters, and BJ Tidrick are all locked in on victories, as well as on points in the case of Paulson and Ottenbacher. It's wide open, though, for the final three spots, with 5 drivers with a shot to make it with good finishes this evening. Carl Burke enters tonight, plus 19 from the cut line with drop weeks. Ricky Bozier, plus 15. O'Hare has the final spot at the moment, plus 10. Devin West, a shocking minus 10. He dropped a non-start earlier this evening. In this season, rather. Bruce Weaver, though, also needs a good run tonight, Greg, because while he won, he is outside the top 16. In other words, who makes those final 3 spots could change completely by the end of the evening based on how they come into tonight with the track such as this.
It's going to really mess with them moving forward here, Justin, trying to keep your cool and know, hey, I got an 80-lap race to worry about, but I'm fighting for that playoff. You got to find that happy balance. And if this was a track at, say, one of your intermediate tracks, Kansas, Texas, Charlotte, something like that, that's an easier task than, say, here at Talladega, where you're going to be in a pack the entire time. You're going to have cars right next to you, right in front of you, right behind you. I managed to hop in and turn a couple practice laps with some of the drivers yesterday that will be in this race. Jeff Stabnow, Dan West Jr., Dan Lowther, Eric Cheney, John Ottenbacher, and others were out there. I was out there for 15 laps, and I was white-knuckled the entire time. No doubt it's going to be like that for these guys for the entire 80 laps. Of those drivers who was in the pack with me last night, Dan Lowther, he is one of those guys who's still in the mix for the playoffs if he can get up there. So no doubt those extra practice laps are going to be big for him. He turned just about 80 laps in that session yesterday, about the full length of this race.
It's also the importance, though, not just the raw pace, but the maneuverability. You're being able to adjust to changing track conditions, how the cars will handle tonight, since it's a very rough surface. Want to turn to Wesley Outwin in the pits. Fresh off what was a wild weekend at the Roval with tons of rain. Tonight, we're getting ready for what's expected to be an even different type of wild racing.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, Talladega, like we saw in the truck race on Thursday night, by the way, it was a wild card. A lot of crazy scenarios, unknowns, and I think we're going to see the same thing here tonight for the Northwest iRacing Cup Series. And even though these drivers have to work around the 266-mile track here at Talladega in Anniston, Alabama, and up the high banks of the 28 degrees in turns 1 and 2 to 3 and 4 down to the tri-oval, this is also going to be a key track for pit stops. First off, the flag stand. It's adjacent start-finish line off the exit of the pit lane, not in the middle of the tri-oval. So when these drivers hit their marks coming down to the pit stops tonight, first off, make sure you're not speeding on pit road. I always say that every week when you introduce me. You got to make sure you don't get any of those EOL penalties because of your own stupidity. Make sure your cars are perfect. No penalty for speeding. Then you got to make sure you hit your marks in your pit boxes. Never overshooting them, having the reverse, go back, you lose time. A second lost in the racetrack is almost, thousands of seconds that you can lose on the race course during a racing event. Luckily, you have to make sure that things work key for that. And most of all, when do you make your pit stops? When is the strategy? 4 tires, 2 tires. All of those scenarios, if you can pull them off, will put you in victory lane here at Talladega. And most of all, Greg and Justin, you got to miss the big one. It should be fun. I'll call the action on pit lane here tonight at Talladega Superspeedway.
Thank you, Wesley. And this is going to be one where you mentioned some of that. It's also one where the conditions in sim day, September 27th, 80 degrees with partly cloudy skies, only a 105-degree track temp. Very windy, though. That's going to affect qualifying pace, especially down the back. Yes, it's blowing towards the front stretch grandstands, but this is similar conditions, Greg, to what the NASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series had to deal with just about a couple weeks ago. And many drivers talked about trying to find that sweet spot for when the speed for the win just dips down enough for them to get a good lap.
So we'll see how they roll with that, Justin, as they go out for qualifying. Again, like you said, the wind is going to be hitting them at a weird angle there on the backstretch. They got to figure out exactly where to put that car. And not only that, you got to remember what you got to do at Talladega in qualifying to begin with on your qualifying laps. Lap 1, you got to be right up against the wall the entire way around until about 300, 400 feet before the finish line, before you duck back down to the bottom. Second lap, right on that double yellow line, which, much like in NASCAR, where it came into a big play in the finish of the Cup race back a couple of weeks ago at Talladega, the high controversy finish, that double yellow line rule is in effect tonight as well.
Could be important to stay smart if you're a driver tonight. Still, drivers meeting currently being discussed, but you talked about a very stacked field. 31 drivers have made their way to Talladega Superspeedway for tonight's action. Many of them have competed much of the season, but for others, they've ran part-time schedules but are back tonight. James Thurston, we haven't seen the 2 Machine in the past few weeks. He's back. Rick Heffley, he's back in the field tonight. Josh Childress is back once again. Jeff Hagan is back once again. William Fletcher is back once again. Toby Ritters is back again. And don't forget about Robert Gambill in the 54. He's back again. This is the type of track, Greg, where any of those drivers in this entire field can come away with the victory tonight because this is such an unpredictable type of racing.
And on Thursday night with the Truck Series, the race that I was fortunate enough to be on the call with Wesley on, we had some different players up at the front. You can expect more of the same here because they call Talladega the wild card, and it is exactly that. Anybody can get a good enough run with this one in the... or with this race here at Talladega. Just 80 laps the distance as well. Justin, qualifying is getting underway as the drivers' meeting is wrapped up. It is showtime here at Talladega, Alabama. Qualifying rolling off.
And we'll go right up to the end of the clock for qualifying. Bruce Lee Weaver, Stephen O'Hare, Dan Lowther, Robert Gambill are the first drivers out on the racetrack. Of note, one driver did attempt to put in a time on the circuit and request an EOL, and Eric Cheney once again going out the second the driver's meeting started. However, he managed to crash before he can record an official time. We've talked about Bruce Weaver, though, this season. Greg, This is the race he needs to gain 10 points to move into the top 16 to get himself in the playoffs. The driver he needs to keep an eye on is Daryl Tidrick.
And Tidrick not in the field tonight. He has to work out of town for the entire week, not in the field tonight. He is hoping that Weaver in the number 40 does not have a good night. By the way, Justin, Weaver led the most laps on Thursday night in the truck race.
That actually may get him in because of that difference. We'll have to see how the drops factor in, though, when it comes to that car for Daryl Tidrick. For Bruce Weaver, though, really different from what you just discussed for qualifying procedure. Duck down to the bottom of the track in turn 2. You usually don't want to do that.
No, that's going to take away that much momentum. Like we talked about, you want to be right up on the wall for the entire qualifying lap. He does it better there in turn 3 and 4, but you want to be up against the wall. And there he is diving down again. So Weaver, kind of an unorthodox qualifying lap. But hey, it worked for him on Thursday, Justin. He not only led the most laps, he set the pole in that truck race. We'll see if he can follow it up here in the Cup Series tonight, but an unorthodox line there in his qualifying time. He's the first driver to set the time at a 51.617. Weaver was the pole sitter in the trucks, but boy, that diving down on corner exit, I don't like that going into the second lap here.
Robert Gambill topping him, but the second lap's the important one. Of note, Gambill stayed on the bottom of the track the entire first lap. He'll likely be shuffled down as this run goes on. You can gain up to a second with this car during this qualifying run. Interesting tidbit, though. In recent weeks, it's been known for drivers in iRacing for the Cup cars that there are now 2 types of setups available. Normal fixed and advanced fixed setup, so to speak, where they've added for some tracks this season for the end of the campaign some different variations to allow drivers to be able to learn how to build setups better and run more consistently, increase participation on the open side. We're running with a similar type of setup tonight. In fact, the setup for this evening, and that has been was a competitive one at Talladega during the official race week.
So this is going to be a unique race, unorthodox setup. Again, these drivers, they're used to the normal fixed setup is what we normally run here in the Northwest Cup Series. Going with this little bit more of an open setup, if you could call it that, is going to throw some drivers for a loop. And Justin, you were talking about it before we went on air. That's going to help them out because you said this setup might drive just a little bit better than the typical fixed setup.
Before they were officially released, I was in an official race with one of the iRacing officials who was able to work with some fellow drivers, draft up to the front, and contended for the race win with that car. And we're talking about drivers who he's competing against in open competition who are affiliated with some of the top technical alliances in all of iRacing. So this has pace. The handling, though, is going to be crucial because the normal fix set would get loose 15 to 20 laps into a run right here because it's so bumpy right when it widens out for the front stretch before coming back to the start and finish line. That could be crucial for who's able to stay up towards the front and could cause some big ones if any drivers struggle with similar types of situations with this one.
And Justin, going back to what you just said there with staying up front, what is your strategy as a driver here at Talladega? Do you want to run up at the front as long as you can and try to stay in front of the big one? Do you want to ride in the back for the first so much of the race and try to avoid the big one?
As a driver, personally, to answer that question, Greg, I'm usually the type who likes to stay up at the front because the more cars behind you, the less likely you'll have to check up for an incident, right? You just have to make sure you keep an eye on what's happening around you. But I know, Greg, at the same time, there's many competitors who feel you need to be patient at the back of the field and wait for everything to happen and then make a charge because you never know what's going to happen tonight. And kind of curious, what would you do then in that situation? You mentioned going 4 wide at one point in practice.
Yeah, that was definitely not intentional by any means. I was trying to pick up my teammates Dan Lowther and Eric Cheney, and then all of a sudden Dan keys up on the radio and says, "Hey, stay there, we're 4 wide." I was like, what? So that didn't work out. But to answer your question, I'm the opposite, Justin. My first race here at Talladega was in a truck race, an official race, and I used the stay at the back strategy. I kind of just hung out. I knew it was a short sprint. I knew there was going to be some stuff happening. I hung out in the back, and I managed to work my way up at the end and steal a top 5 out of it my first time here. So whereas you like to run at the front, personally myself, I like to hang out in the back till about the 3/4 mark of the race and then begin trying to make the way up there.
Looking at Josh Childress with a bit of a different look tonight with the yellow and black machine. It's still Bruce Lee Weaver at the top of the board. Kaden Anderson, O'Hare, Gambill, Paulison, your top 5. Shocked to see the 51 on his first lap, mind you. Still as high up as he is. Just about everyone else on their second lap has only put in a 51.2. And keep in mind, yes, this is super speedway racing, but qualifying is still a fine art here because it's not just as simple as go full out and hope for the best. You screw up if you take the corners too sharply. If you turn the wheel too much, Greg, you're going to screw up speed.
And that is something you do not want to do at Talladega. This track, much like its counterpart just to the east in Daytona Beach, Florida, all about the momentum and just scrubbing off just a little bit of speed here at this track. That's going to take you, half a lap, maybe even more to get that belt built back up?
Not as big as in some races could be, but in qualifying at the very least, it can be hurtful. For Josh Childress, a 51.2 on his second lap. You've seen him use the bottom of the track for his first lap. That is still a 10th off your pole time. Still shocked to see the 40 up on the board. With several drivers still yet to qualify, though. Chris White looking to put in his second lap this time. Sean Brightsman also looking to put in an official lap time soon.
And how about that, Bruce Lee Weaver on top of the board? He set the pole on Thursday, and Justin, me and you were both concerned about the fact that he cut the corner on his first lap on both sides of this racetrack. Hey, it worked out for him, though. He's currently on top of the charts and was the pole sitter on Thursday. Could Bruce Lee Weaver sweep the pole?
At the scene, should note that this is a third lap apparently for Chris White, who actually did smack the wall there, you may have noticed. So getting some extra practice here. Just about everyone else has not hit the track yet. Carl Burke still in the pit lane. Cheney, as mentioned, crashed during the drivers' meeting. Rick Heffley, Dan West Jr., Seth Frazier, Jeff Stabnell, Sean Brightsman, BJ Tidrick, Corey Walters, Toby Ritters, not yet out on the track. One driver is rolling. It's the 51 of Chris Walters, who looks like he may try and set in a lap. It's not going to be enough time, though, to set 2.
Chris Walters in the number 51. Been a while since we've seen Chris Walters here in this series. Made a couple of starts back, when was it? Late August into early September. Around the Labor Day weekend, we saw Chris Walters last time and haven't seen him since. And here he is back in the field in the number 51, trying to get out there. Want to touch for a minute on a guy who had a great run on Thursday with a top 10. He was going single car ops, single car driver in that truck race. Has teamed up with Dan Lowther and Eric Cheney. I'm talking about the 99 of Chris Torres. Keep your eyes on him. Wesley can attest. Torres did a great job by himself in his number 99, his Mountain Dew entry on Thursday night. By himself, single car. He's teamed up with Lowther and Cheney tonight, looking for some drafting help tonight.
Going to be a crucial race for those competitors, as Walters not going to have enough time on the clock to be able to set this lap. Made it 30 seconds to go on the clock, like we'll run out of time down the front straightaway. So it looks like Bruce Lee Weaver is going to get the sweep of the poles at Talladega with that truck race by 6 1/1000ths of a second, Greg. This may be his night to try and punch his ticket in, on top of trying to get a second win, maybe.
But Look who is alongside to his outside to start the race off, Justin. A guy who has been so strong out of the mix of the playoffs because he did not run the full season, but a win at Las Vegas for Caden Anderson in the number 37. He's fresh off his biggest career victory in real life racing at Yakima Speedway, winning the Pro Late Model race in a 36 car field at Yakima Speedway. Caden Anderson picked up the win in that one. He follows it up with an outside pole qualifying run here at Talladega. Can he keep that momentum going for win number 2 on the season here?
A lot of question marks entering tonight. The question's going to also be, who makes the playoffs? Let's find out your starting grid to see where those contenders will line up this evening. On the pole, it's Bruce Lee Weaver by 6/1000ths of a second over Caden Anderson. Row 2 will feature Stephen O'Hare and Robert Gambill, able to make his first lap along the whole bottom of the racetrack stick to a top 4 starting spot. Stephen Paulison rounds out the top 5 with Chris Torres starting in 6th position with a 51.1 in qualifying. James Thurston back in the field in 7th with William Fletcher's 28 machine in P8. Dan Lowther, one of the drivers needing some points in P9, while Tyler King back in the field this evening was a contender a few weeks ago for some victories. He starts in the top 10, Greg.
You'll find Josh Childress, who has a pole this year in the 97, in position number 11, with James Vining to his outside, the Catman rolling off in the 333. Joshua Marcy, we've talked about him, Justin. He's been knocking on the door of that first win for quite some time in 13th. Jeff Hagan back in the field after missing a few weeks, rolls off in 14th. You'll find John Ottenbacher in the number 89. He won the truck race at Daytona this year. He knows how to get it done on these plate tracks. 2-time winner this year. Chris White rolls off next to him in 16th. Ricky Bozer in the 42 rolls off in 17th. Taco Bell Roy Grande rolls off 18th in number 18, matching his number. Kevin Smith in a new look 00, one of our many drivers supporting pink for breast cancer awareness this month, rolling off there. He's got Frank Harris to his outside in the 11. That's your top 20, Justin.
One other driver set a time with a blistering quick time of 4 minutes and 3 seconds. It's Sean Breitzman saying, I want to start in the middle of the pack. He'll start alongside Jeff Stabnell in row number 11. Row 12, Eric Cheney, he'll get it into longest line penalty, starting alongside originally to Seth Frazier. That will allow BJ Tiderick and the rest of the cars in the bottom line to move up. BJ Tiderick starting alongside Dan West Jr. in qualifying lineup with Corey Walters and Toby Ritters 27th and 28th. Rounding out your top 30, Carl Burke and Chris Walters, and Rick Heffley has elected not to make the start for this evening's race. Rounds out your 31 competitors. Heading off to the pit lane, Wesley Utland is with your pole sitter.
Bruce Lee Weaver puts down an incredible lap. He looked good in the trucks last Thursday night before heading to Atlanta for the postseason. Bruce, looking good in the car. What's it going to take to put this Granger 40 to victory lane here in this wild card race tonight?
I think we just got to figure out how to control the race. That's my plan.
Anything different from a truck race you can use for this car race here tonight for this event at Talladega?
No, sir. Kind of learned who your friends are.
You heard it. We'll let him get to it, ladies and gentlemen. Bruce Lee Weaver, the man that's on the pole. He'll be the driver that's ready to bring the field to the green flag of that number 40 machine. And again, as you said, Justin, even just like real life, you find out who your friends are. They might be your friends now. And at the white flag, all bets are off. It should be a good one. He's on the pole here at Talladega as we get ready to bring the field down the front straightaway for the start.
Thank you, Wesley, and this is going to be an intriguing one. Again, 80 laps the distance this evening. Expect a 2-stopper on the gas. Drivers have been able to make it up to 36 to 38 laps at Talladega during official racing. Who will lock themselves officially into the playoffs? We'll find out at the end of what's expected to be a wild one. Pace car off. To the start box we go. Green flag is out. We're racing from Talladega. First on lap going to Bruce Lee Weaver, already 2-3-1 in the pack. Several drivers wanting to go towards the back. Several others trying to charge up to the front already in a crazy start.
Yeah, look at Dan Lowther in the number 63. He's one of those drivers who needs points tonight. He has already worked his way up in the 5th now in the In-Front Motorsports, number 63. Meanwhile, Caden Anderson, he fell to the back to pick up with Seth Frazier and BJ Tidrick and company back there. He started second. He was scored 17th at the line that time by. So second place on the grid, but he fell back early. Caden Anderson looks like he's going to ride it out in the back for the early stages.
And one of the main things that was seen during official racing a couple weeks ago at Talladega is you can get both the middle and the bottom to work. The middle line was actually the preferred line at times for drivers. 4-5 different drivers already hooking up in that middle line. A couple others, including Anderson, trying to catch up to those 4 specifically. That group right now led by Josh Childress, who wants to charge up to the front with John Annenbacher.
Childress already working his way into the top 5 after starting 11th, trying to lead the high side up there with Ottenbacher, Gamble, and Tyler King up there. Stephen O'Hare, Tyler King's teammate, goes to try to pick him up, and he slid just a little bit up, and Childress is going to be the big loser in this one, Justin, as he's going to get shuffled back. O'Hare and Ottenbacher, Bobble Paulison as well. We are getting dicey early.
Bit of contact to the quarter panel, and they're still trying to get themselves gathered up. Paulison trying to spack it on down. How in the world didn't they pile that up into turn 1?
That's Talladega, baby.
An interesting start, and here comes John Annenbacher looking to take the lead. This is expected to go back and forth throughout the night because the middle line is faster down the straights, the bottom line is faster in the corners.
Look at Caden Anderson already working his way back inside the top 10 now. He's trying to figure it out, Justin. Where does he want to be? Does he want to be in line with the inside, have the advantage in the corners, or on the high side and have the advantage on the straightaway? Third in line on the outside now, but he has been weaving his way through there. Almost makes you wonder if him falling back there was not by design, if he was just kind of hung out to dry there on the initial start, as he has fought his way back up already.
Gonna be curious to see how these competitors try and shape things out. O'Hare led at the line that time by. The main pack already includes 23 drivers. A couple have already dropped back. Chris Walters, Toby Ritter, Seth Frazier, BJ Tidrick, William Fletcher, Carl Burke, Eric Cheney have all lost the main pack already, or at the very least are at the tail end. 3 wide again for the battle for P5. King does not want to be behind a car at the moment.
No, he's trying to stay up there on the extreme outside. We were calling it on Thursday. Try to break that third groove in, but no one going with him right now. Meanwhile, his teammate Stephen O'Hare leads the way into number 41. Josh Childress and John Ottenbacher, 2 drivers who started outside the top 10, second and third. Weaver, the pole sitter, he's bringing up the outside line right now with Caden Anderson behind him. How about Ricky Bozer, the 42, third in line there on the outside, with Dan Lowther making his way back up there as they all try to work things out here in the early stages. Already 5 laps in the books, working lap number 6. Stephen O'Hare has been out front for about the last 3 or so, but back on the outside, here comes Weaver again.
And keep in mind, Weaver wants to try and control the pack. It's O'Hare on the bottom at the moment. Wesley.
Yeah, guys, Stephen O'Hare right now, the man leading here in the early going at Talladega. And by the way, Thursday night, he won the truck race here for the final race of the regular season, moving into the playoffs this Thursday night in Atlanta. He's outside the cutoff, currently in 12th. If he wins this race, guys, he automatically clinches the playoffs, and it would be a sweep like what we saw Brightsman do at the Daytona Road Course just 2 weeks ago as well.
Going to be crucial for him to be one of the drivers to try and control this race. As talked about, he's among the competitors who are right along that point cut line. Still many drivers trying to back up. Of note, we've already talked about no Daryl Tidrick. What about Devin West? There is no Devin West tonight either, and he was just outside the playoffs and needing a good run tonight. So he's likely now out of the playoff picture since he dropped a non-start.
Yeah, Devin West, that is going to be unfortunate for him. But again, he has been not running the full season, just kind of been running when he could. 3 wins on the truck side, but still hadn't broken through for that first Cup win. Justin, do you think if he had had a win this season in the number 5 and was in position where he was inside the playoff picture moving into tonight, would he have run this one?
I would say so, because remember, you have to finish in the top 16 to compete for the title. What would your mindset be? Because at least in my opinion, if you are competing for a championship, you want to try and win it. If you feel like you have a shot in winning a race, would have gave him a shot.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think he still would have had a shot even if he ran this race. I think he would have had a shot to get himself in. So it's a big surprise either way to not see Devin West up there. But Caden Anderson has fallen to the back once again in the 37. He is out of the playoff picture as he missed too many races through the summer stretch. But he did have that win in Las Vegas and has shown a lot of speed here in this one. Hearing Devin West was out of town, much like the situation with Daryl Tidrick, did not make it back in time to be able to compete in this one. Much like Daryl Tidrick, he did not get back into the race in time.
Big backup there from Bruce Weaver there on the top side. And here's another thing to think about. 25% is the amount of tape on these grills. That allows some decent amount of time to be able to cool it off. However, Greg, you can't push forever, and you eventually do need that buffer for a couple laps.
Yeah, so you want to have that buffer there, as Wiki Bozer was having a little bit of connection issues in the number 42. You want to have that buffer like you talked about to try to help you out and settle things down. Meanwhile, lap traffic up ahead, and he is just going to stay to the outside here in the number 62. Rick Heffley falling to the back 1 lap down as the field tries to serpentine their way around. Already going to be 10 in the books when they cross the stripe this time. The dominant driver so far has been that number 41 of Stephen O'Hare in the Peels Oranges Ford Mustang. 3-time winner in the Truck Series this season. Justin has not broken through in the Cup win with the Cup win yet this season, though.
Not quite yet, and several other drivers entered tonight with different looks. We talked about Dan Lowther. He has a bit of a darker green tonight and a bit more of the orangey or orange, I guess is the way to put it. Ricky Bozier as well, though, with a more black looking scheme with his flames instead of his normal white and teal and blue scheme.
So King and O'Hare, they switch it off just about every week, it feels like. When King runs this scheme that he's running right now, O'Hare's running the Peel scheme, and then they switch it off the next week. I can't think of one race where they both ran the exact same paint scheme. Maybe we'll see that for the championship race if they decide to do it, but they like to switch it off back and forth. Remember, there's also now a third driver in that stable, not in the field tonight, but Dennis Moore has joined up forces with them. He joined that team. He hasn't run either of those schemes yet, though. He's run his own schemes, but he is in that stable now. A matter of time before we start seeing him throw his schemes into the mix.
That's actually interesting to note. The top line still has a decent amount of energy pushing its way along. Bruce Weaver is not controlling the front as much as he may have anticipated, but here's the thing. You stay at the front and lead too many laps, you're burning up a lot of fuel, Greg, up to about a couple laps difference if you try and push it too hard.
And that's why you also see some drivers kind of hang out in the back. Maybe not at the back of the field so much, but trying to be the tail end of a draft because you're using the least amount of fuel when you are drafting with someone from behind. You're not having the drag of the car behind you. That's why you try to see or you see some drivers trying to be the tail end of the draft. Like an example right now would perhaps be the Daytona winner here in the Northwest Cup Series, Chris Walters. He's kind of hung back out just a little bit in the Hooters number 9, but he's the last car in line on the outside right now, tucked onto the back of Chris White just barely in the 83. He's probably the best example in this race, I would say, right now, of being the tail end of the field, just saving gas just a little bit.
You see him trying to back up a little bit. There was a massive checkup on the top line. That's why you see all the shuffling there, where Bruce Weaver and Autumn Bucker slowed up a lot off turn 4. Now they're joined by a couple drivers nearly losing it. James Vining, Robert Gambill also jumping up to the top looking for the lead.
Robert Gamble joining the series just a few weeks ago, and we talked about it. Talladega brings some different players to the front. Gamble was spending a lot of time in practice as well. He is trying to get up there in the number 54, steal a win here.
And based on your testing, and just want to confirm this as well, for those wondering, the fuel mileage to think about here for tonight, about 37 laps do you expect for this one?
I would say, yeah. We saw a couple laps shorter in the Truck Series race. I think it was around 35 or so. So you can expect a couple more here in the Cup race. I'd say around 37 or so, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's going to be important to make sure you stay with groups. Big check on the bottom side with the technical issues of going on with the 35 of Joshua Marcy, causing massive checkups. Marcy may be forced to try and drop off the track.
So trying to hang on is Marcy, the 35, and Justin, we've talked about it with him a few times in the past. He has been so close so many times to knocking on that door for that first win in the Cup Series. Unfortunately, not the start that he wanted here in this number 35 car. 16 laps on the board right now for Stephen O'Hare, who has led the most laps far and away thus far. But look at this, Justin. The outside lane in line right now cooperating. The inside line having a little bit of a struggle as another car down there. There goes Marcy once again.
I think that killed all the momentum at the bottom. Bruce Weaver fills up a bit of the hole, and Gambill up to the race lead. Not going to be able to drop down, though. Vining still trying to push him clear, maybe down the front.
Oh, there goes O'Hare after contact with Childress. Great save by Stephen O'Hare, but that's your driver who's led the most laps so far. He's going to get shuffled back after having to make that amazing save. We're 4 wide in the back, but Robert Gambill is going to lead this lap.
Childress almost squeezes off O'Hare off the racetrack. What in the world? You do not want to bump in the middle of the corners, especially with these types of cars. That example off 4 was why.
Yeah, that was a great save by O'Hare in the number 41, as Childress is now trying to make the move on the outside, hook up with his teammate now, Tyler King, as O'Hare trying to get back in line on the inside, now 5th in line on the inside. Looks like we are now seeing an 8-car break for just a moment before we find Bruce Lee Weaver in the number 40 trying to tuck back on. Weaver and Lowther, 8th and 9th right now. They are the 2 drivers who are trying to fight their way into the playoffs that have the best shot, I would say. Now they're all starting to fall down to the bottom here. Tyler King kind of the lone man on the outside right now.
Remember, Weaver has that win from Michigan. That was such a talked about win as he shoots up the track to work with King. So all he needs is a top 16 in the points. The drivers, again, to keep an eye on. O'Hare has been doing the job he needs to do so far, getting some lead laps. The drivers as well in that grouping, Ricky Bozier, Carl Burke, Dan Lowther, who have a shot at being in the playoffs if they have a good finish tonight and or a win. They're all doing their jobs. Most of those drivers just mentioned are up at the front except for Burke.
Yeah, Burke kind of doing the hang back and let it all come to him strategy, where guys like Weaver and Lowther, they want to be up in front of the mess and try to get up there and lead laps, put yourself in a position as Ottenbacher going to get the run on the outside with help from Childress and O'Hare. And now, here's something else, Justin, that we got to talk about with Dega. Now, look at this. O'Hare is back in line with Childress. You got to get what happened just 3 or 4 laps ago out of your head and get right back to working with that same guy. It's the roles are reversed now, but you got to get that out of your head.
Yeah, Ottenbacher couldn't get clear, and he's already checking up the top line with the lost amount of momentum. What about Roy Grande? All of a sudden, he's now up to the lead pack. He's taking this chance to try and show what he can do after what has been a lot of bad luck with his different paint scheme. He's back in the Taco Bell car for the first time since August.
And he had a great run on Thursday in the trucks, Justin. Unfortunately, did not end the way he wanted. He ended being caught up in the big one. So he wants some redemption here in the Cup Series. He picked up his career best finish here in the Northwest Racing Series. Not just the Cups, not just the trucks. Overall, best career finish of second at Bristol earlier this year. Wants that first career victory. It could come tonight.
It's the type of race where you have that. Remember, this is a much different tone of race, too, from Daytona, to say the very least, Greg, because that had a caution every 10 laps. This is the longest run by the series on a super speedway in the Cup Series this season.
We're going to be a quarter of the way through this race as soon as they reach the stripe this time. There it is, 21 in the books, and John Ottenbacher won the Daytona race in the Truck Series, leading the way now in the number 89. Corey Walters, the winner of that caution-marred Daytona race, as things get dicey. Walters currently hanging back in 17th position. We are starting to heat up now. The teammates, O'Hare and King, hooked up on the top.
Tandem draft, and that's also significant with this package. Wesley, you have an update.
We're coming up on lap number 20 here so far. Green gear conditions on Talladega's event for round 25 of the Northwest iRacing Cup Series was strolling up and down the pit lane, asking different crew members, when are you going to make a pit? When are you going to come down pit road? Now, the fuel strategy is that they can go between 30 to 35 laps on a green flag run. So I would predict sometime between lap 35 and 40 for those that stretched it out with saving fuel. We'll see green flag pit stops here within the next 15 laps.
Thank you, Wesley. That's important to note because if they're going to pit at 30, that is a smart call, Greg, because it can go. Oh, trouble!
Here we go.
That tandem draft, big one, off in the corner. Kane up in the air. Caution flag is out.
Swag yellow flag for the first time. We're still wrecking. Lowther gets through. Playoff contender Dan Lowther trying to lock himself in. Got through it, but they are still wrecking on the backstretch. And Tyler King, that car right there, the 44, got the worst of it.
They are still piling up. Let's take a look at the swag replay as they tried this again. They almost had trouble before, and Childress again pushing the pusher. You don't want to do that either, by the way.
No, and Tyler King goes for a ride. Roy Grande, Chris Torres, Dan West Jr. sliding through. Fortunately for him, he is already in the playoffs. Can kind of just hang back and take it easy tonight. But man, oh man, there were several drivers who were trying to get themselves in a good position here in this one. Let's take one more look at it. Watch those three cars on the outside. Actually, let's see. This is on board with Jeff Stab now in the number 24. What did the 24 see here? Oh, nothing but smoking cars flying.
This collected a
he's in.
bunch of drivers. Wow. He tried to get around, but nowhere to go there. Big track blocker takes out about a half of the field. There is a fast repair available, and much of the field is going to have to use it now. Probably not when they wanted to use it. Now, this becomes an interesting race to see what happens from this point on, because it's a one-stopper from here, Wesley, if you come down.
Yeah, and a lot of these drivers definitely going to take advantage of that fast repair as here comes the cavalry down the pit lane. Robert Gambled in, Jeff Hagan in, Ottenbacher, Vining, Bozier, White, Lowther, Weaver, Childress, Smith, Harris, Paulison, Thurston, O'Hare, Anderson, and of course the man involved in the big wreck, Tyler King, Walters, Sean Brightsman, Joshua Marcy. No most 19 of the 30 starters onto the pit lane now, taking on service, taking on fast repairs as they get ready to go to their crews on pit road. Already on exit off the pit lane is one car. Weaver's in. Looks like O'Hare overshot his pit stall. He's got to back up and fix and go again. Also, here comes Weaver off the pit lane. Ottenbacher off pit lane. The race off pit road is on. 4 tires and fuel and a lot of repairs being made for many of those contenders caught up in what would be the big one on lap 22.
A massive crash after a wrongly timed push. just about everybody pit. This is a quickie yellow track as well, so 2 laps to go signal this time by. Head-scratching decision, though, for one car. BJ Tidrick, for some reason, didn't want to pit Greg. The pit road is now closed for him if he elects to come down and may have to serve an additional penalty if he ducks down this time.
Well, he's been known to take a gamble, not quite Sean Brightsman levels, but BJ Tidrick, he's not afraid to take a couple risks here and there. So can't say I'm too surprised to see it, but definitely a head scratcher for sure for Tidrick, because he's only good for, like Wesley said, about 15 more green flag laps. Now he's in trouble of possibly having to pit by himself.
If he doesn't elect to come down this time by, and again, remember, if you duck down with the pit road closed, it's an end of long line penalty for some tracks as well. It can also include a penalty under green. See how things shape out. Wesley, you're standing by with one of the drivers involved with the incident.
I am Tyler King. Just checked in with his crew on the 44 crew radio. Tyler, how bad is that car? Obviously, you had to do a massive fast repair to fix it. What's your take of what happened on the backstretch going to 3, the big one?
Oh, well, we just had a big run. The 41, myself, and I believe it was the 97 behind me. We just had a huge run, and, it was close quarters racing. Went up for a little ride.
Do you think it's too early to see this kind of fierce pack racing so early in the going? Do you think we should see it probably the second half, or what?
Yeah, some people will say that. We wanted to go out and have a good, put a good show on for everybody today. So hopefully we can continue that, and we'll keep it clean from here on out.
All right, there's Tyler King of that number 44 machine again, caught up in that big wreck, massive damage. And Stefan O'Hare, what a save for him, able to quickly get on the binders, drive it down to the infield grass. His take of what happened as other drivers just came off of the pit lane, including Walters and Tidrick and more, just having service done. Also, Sean Brightsman on pit lane, Jeff Stabnow again, Chris White, Chris Walters, all these cars as we get ready to set up for the restart, gentlemen. A lot of damage here in the early going here at Talladega.
Thank you, Wesley. And of note, many of the drivers you just mentioned there had been half a track behind the whole main pack, so able to keep themselves in the lead lap. If this race went green, they coming up to 55 laps to go, this time by Greg.
55 to go when we take the green flag. We are clicking them off before that caution came out there. 25 laps on the board when we go back green. Bruce Lee Weaver back out front, was the dominant truck on Thursday. Unfortunately, the result didn't end out how we wanted. Ricky Bozer second, Dan Lowther third. Those front 2 cars on the inside, Weaver and Lowther, fighting for their playoff lives, trying to steal one of the final spots of the season. Weaver has a win, Lowther does not. Lowther's best finish this season, 3rd. So we'll see how that goes. That came at Chicago. Weaver's win came at Michigan on a fuel gamble. Weaver knows how to play the cards and get it done. Can he do it again tonight?
Have to see. Later is in control in the field. 2 end of longest line penalties. This caution flag. Roy Grande, who was involved in the miss. BJ Tidrick, who had to let several cars go, will also start at the end of longest line for pitting with the pit road closed. Josh Childress also did not come out of the pit lane after his damage, so his race may be over. He is not elected to get the damage repaired. It's Weaver, it's Bozer in row 1, Lowther and Gambill, Vining and Harris back on our way from Talladega.
Picking it up once again as we begin lap number 26 of 80. Weaver leads him down into turn number 1, but look at Ricky Bozer. No help from the back as the inside or the outside lane falls down to the inside with Robert Gamble. Next up will be Frank Harris in the 11, who's hooked up with Caden Anderson right now in the 37, picking up speed down the backstretch. And Harris is thinking about maybe trying to go through the middle here. Anderson decides to do it instead.
I think he tried to push Bozer, and Anderson didn't want to do that. Anderson now shuffled up to the front of the middle line. Coming in with them is Seth Frazier, who was in that last pack half a track behind. He wants to try and dance now.
Yeah, say hello to Seth Frazier in the number 32. Oh. He has made his way through the field already.
And William Fletcher, you just seen there, was stopped on the back straightaway. Doesn't bring up a caution since it's off the racing surface. Fletcher had been having some issues before the race he had been talking about a bit on the radio.
So Fletcher, the problems plaguing him again that he had earlier in the day. Caden Anderson back to the lead now in the number 37. Outside pole sitter going to lead the lap for the first time here today. Frank Harris coming up with help from Seth Frazier. Look behind them, Toby Ritters in the number 23. He's had some rough luck in his starts this season. He could try to steal one here.
Yeah, Ritters following on behind on that top line. One of his few starts in the season, part-time schedule for him in that Chevrolet Camaro. Looking to try and make a statement this evening here as there goes O'Hare now to the outside, trying to get the third line of work, getting squeezed out by Ritters.
Already used the fast repair in that 41 car. Meanwhile, Weaver squeezed up in front of Harris to steal the run off the 11 car. Bruce Lee Weaver going to lead the lap. Frazier going to try the outside, thinking 3 wide, but loses the momentum. Ritters picks him back up, though, as the inside lane stays behaved for the time being. Anderson coming up on the inside now of Weaver. Drag race down the backstretch. Lap traffic ahead. It's a yellow car. It's
yes,
Childress.
Josh Childress is back out, and he had 5 minutes of damage repairs. Finally has the fast repair together. He came down a second time, a full lap lost at the very minimum for the 97, and this could be more difficult here. Real quickly, Leslie, update as O'Hare nearly collides with the 35.
Yeah, they make their way through the tri-oval with Caden Anderson out in front. And by the way, real quick, we were talking about pit strategy before we had the big one. Green flag came out around lap 25, 26. We said between 35 to 40 laps, that would be the run. So probably see the next round of pit stops, unless we get a caution flag, it will be around lap 55 to 60. And if they do that, then that would be the money stop unless we do go into another caution. And then, Justin, that would be able to carry the drivers all the way to the checkered flag.
Thank you, Wesley. And going to be key to see if we continue this run to that point. There was a bit of a bobble going into turn 3, a bad bump draft. And here's something to mention. We were talking a bit with a couple drivers before tonight, Greg, where drivers in the Chevys had talked about struggling a bit with that a bit of a pointy nose to push different manufacturers. That case, it was Chevy on Chevy, where there was a bad lineup, it seemed, with the bumper.
Yeah, Eric Cheney came in and talked to us a little bit before that. He said the Chevys were having problems when they were pushing Toyota and Ford. They were having problems, and the car in front of them, be it the Toyota or be it the Blue Oval, went for the ride off the bumper of a Chevy. When they bumped another Chevy, it was fine. So with that knowledge, I'm expecting to see the Chevys work together, kind of like what you see in the NASCAR Cup Series lately. The Fords working with the Fords and Toyotas and such. The Chevys working together. Seems to be the case on the inside line right now, as you got 2 Chevys hooked up there with Lowther and Anderson. By the way, they're working together. We got problems. Gamble going around.
Robert Gamble to the inside wall, no caution. That's off the racing surface. So we stay green. Tough break for the 54. He got a little bit loose in a bit of a push in the middle of the tri-oval. Another section you don't want to bump. For the race lead, though, Anderson with a run on Bruce Lee Weaver. He's looking for the point. Frank Harris has been willing to work with him all night.
Frank Harris is having a great run in that number 11. He turned a lot of practice laps with us last night as well in the Ford EcoBoost Mustang, as Weaver gets back to the lead in the Greg Biffle throwback number 40, which he has run pretty much the entire season. He runs that exact same scheme on the Northwest Tour as well, which is coming to LSR TV on Saturdays. Meanwhile, Anderson and Lowther, they're hooked up again, this time on the outside, give the lead to the 63. In front, Motorsports now in front.
And Lowther looking to bobble on down and does. So now, this could be crucial. We talked about some of the teams. Teamwork is crucial on the super speedways. Technical issue for Chris Walters. 7 seconds back in the race lead, but he's now lost his monitors on the track, in fact, in the second pack.
Wonder if his daughter got the hands on the remote, kind of like Denny Hamlin did. Hey, that was at Talladega, was it not?
Yep, so the 51 now losing some time of note. While Anderson takes the race lead, Frank Harris, though, how do we define this? Greg, it's been where Harris has been towards the middle of the pack in many races. then it seems every single wreck possible has found him this season.
Yeah, it has been a rough go for Frank Harris this season. I think it feels like every single week we have said those words, and Harris trying to hold it off tonight. He's not looking for a win per se. He's just looking for a good finish. Just wow, Stephen O'Hare going down below the apron in that number 41. Could he be going back to try to pick up his teammate Tyler King? Yes, he is. That's exactly what he's doing.
So he's ducked off, and Harris really trying to push Anderson, but a bit squirrely in the middle of the corner. Again, not the section you'd want to be bumper to bumper for obvious reasons, and it's already caused one year incident. Nearly causes a second one as Josh Marcy now works his way back to the front after his technical problems before, as Anderson's the point again.
He has done a fantastic job as that number 35 of Marcy. Remember how close he was to getting that win at Canadian Tire? We thought for sure it was his night before lap traffic ended his night while leading. He has since then just been struggling in that number 35 car, but he has been close to getting the win. He could get it tonight here at Talladega, the wild card, but Anderson leading over Lauder in second.
They're still racing like it's the last lap just about here. A lot of shuffling, a lot of back and forth. And that's one of the main things. Normally you think with race management, you pick a lane, you try and keep calm, you think about the big picture. That's what a lot of teams do in official racing. Tonight, they're racing like every lap is 5 laps to go.
Yeah, they are going for it. And I would say, Justin, that's probably a product of this race only being 80 laps the distance. BJ Tidrick lost the draft in the 72. He's about to go not 1 but 2 laps down now in that number 72. That gamble for him to stay out and lead a lap did not pay off. He is all by himself in the number 72, and they are coming in a hurry. 3 wide for the race lead.
Dan Lowther on the bottom, Bruce Lee Weaver now working with his Ford compatriot and Harris. Anderson shuffled out to the very top of the track. Better push now, though, for the drivers looking to try and get themselves into the playoffs tonight. What a race for some of these competitors that needed some good luck. And they have been smart with several of the moves tonight. Dan Lowther, one of his best races this season. Ricky Bozier, finally getting some luck after some bad luck the past couple months. Those two control the bottom line now.
Interesting to see that Anderson has fallen back while Lowther holds on or fades to the back. Lowther holds on to the lead. Anderson fades back. He's going back there hanging out with Chris Torres right now, who's got some damage on the back of the number 99. Bruce Lee Weaver back to the lead as they are closing in on BJ Tidrick in that number 72. Weaver shuts the door. Frank Harris leads the outside now. Who's that moving up on the top of the outside line? That would be Taco Bell. Roy Grande, he was caught up in that incident. Used the fast repair. He's back up in the mix now.
Yeah, there were a ton of drivers, remember, who were in that. And as a driver, how much does that impact you knowing if I make an error mistake like that or get myself piled up in an error big one, my race is done. Especially since, oh, by the way, Childress is in 30th, 4th car on the top line.
So trying to get that going. Childress in the number 97 is a lap down in that number 97. Actually, he is 2 laps down in the number 97.
I mean, if you're a lead lap car and see someone who is several laps down fighting with the lead pack, what's going through your mind then?
Right now, you're just hoping nothing happens and you can just stay out of trouble as long as you can.
There is only 1 car 1 lap down to Rick Heffley. He's been able to find some drafting help, though, in the 62 machine. Remember, he missed the start. Of note, Chris Walters, your first DNF with the monitor issues. He's done for the night. That time by, though, Frank Harris up to the point.
Harris leads the lap in the 11. However, Weaver comes fighting back. Would you say Bruce Lee Weaver and Dan Lowther know that they are fighting for their lives right now? They have been up in the top 5 pretty much the entire race. They have done a fantastic job doing what they need to do. Could they possibly, is the math there for both of them to try to sneak into the playoffs, or at this point, if one of them's getting in, it's one or the other?
Looking at it, a player, of course, one of the other drivers looking to battle in for that final point spot. Just about everybody is tight as talked about at the top of the broadcast, Carl Burke is also in that position where he needs the map to work. Guess who's back in the lead pack? Carl Burke. Working with Tyler Keane at the moment, just backed off because now Chris Torres is up on the top line behind Childress. There's a look there. You see that blue machine for Carl Burke. He was in that Wait Far backpack for the first run.
And oh, by the way, Justin, not this time by, but the time after the next time by, we're going to be halfway.
That's how quick this race has gone so far. And I'd like to argue, and I've mentioned this a few times, where they made the change for this package about a year or two ago. Not just on iRacing, but in real life. It's similar replication to what you would see maybe in the truck series, in the runs, in the big spoiler. Big bobble. That time for Toby Ridders, who goes under the apron. We stay green for the time being and clean. But the point trying to make is some of the racing at super speedways was much cleaner.
Oh, speaking of that,
now there's a wreck. Caution flag is out. More cars flipping up.
Went for a ride.
And they are going to a complete stop. Roy Grande is in it again. He used a fast repair. Paulison in it again.
There's Chris Torres involved.
Burke was just making his first push of the race. See what happened. Happened on the bottom line, it looked like. That caused it as...
Started right around here, the 27. Oh! Was he trying to side? I think he was trying to side draft Grande, and it just didn't work out. And you see Seth Frazier going for the ride of a lifetime. He went to Six Flags in that number 32.
That's Jeff Hagan. I don't understand that decision in the middle of the corner.
Yeah, that was weird. It looked like he was trying to side draft, but that's more of a move you do on the straightaway. Yeah. A little bit of a bobble right there. Then I think he just pushed up the track. I think the car may have got away from him.
See Seth Frazier launched up into the sky. Torres collected on the top. Paulison getting some damage with the checkup. Brightsman able to drive on through. Man, a rough one. And remember, some of the drivers were just starting to back up a little bit because of that mistake in the tri-oval. For Toby Ridders, he was among the drivers checking up. But Wesley, going towards you this time, and remember those fuel maneuvers you mentioned? We're in top-off territory, maybe.
Yeah, they're all out the window now. Definitely, they could try to top off the tanks and try to see if they can go to the finish here. Wondering to see if they're all going to come down to the pit lane here as we are halfway through this race. 40 laps in. And here comes the cavalry on pit lane, led by the leader, Bruce Lee Weaver from the pole. Dan Lowther, one of the best runs he's got. By the way, guys, not in a neon yellow car like normally. He's got that bright green and orange car, doing a phenomenal job. Harris, Bozier, Marcy, O'Hare, Vining, Anderson, Burke, Walters, King, Stabnow, Ottenbacher, Brightsman, Frazier, Witters, Thurston, Paulison, everybody at least in the top 20 coming down to the pit lane for service. As here comes those drivers in their pit stalls ready to go to work. Caden Anderson to pit stall 2. Bruce Lee Weaver, he's already down and away off of his pit stop. Lowther right there behind him, the race off pit road. And Bruce Lee Weaver coming out on the racetrack first. He pitted first. He'll exit first. Dan Lowther will exit second. Bozier with a good run for him. Frank Harris, Marcy, O'Hare. Those are your top 6 as they exit on back to the racetrack. And again, as we talked about strategy, throw it out the window now as we work our second swag caution. And Justin and Greg, I believe these drivers, I don't think we're done seeing cautions, but they could go to the finish of the race now.
A little bit tight, but indeed. But we'll break things down in just a moment. You're watching LSR TV for coverage of the Northwest Cup Series for the final race of the regular season for the virtual Talladega Super Speedway. Stick around.
ETE Reman is the world's best remanufacturer of transmissions for import and domestic cars and trucks. Based in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, our customers are repair shops, auto parts stores, dealerships, and distributors. And with 6 nationwide warehouses, we're where and when you need us. So when you're looking for a transmission that is like new, only better, instill confidence and install ETE Reman.
Want to go signal this time by from Talladega Super Speedway, Justin Prince alongside Greg Wentz, Wesley Otwin in the pits, Charles Wooden in the director's seat. Wesley is standing by with one of the drivers up towards the front here. It's been a good run for Dan Lowther, Wesley.
It certainly is. Dan Lowther currently in the bubble position for the playoffs right now in 12th. Obviously, if he has a good run, Dan, actually, I'm sorry, you're in 15th in the points. You're outside the cutoff of the 12, but if you can get a good points day, which it looks like you're doing, and even get that checkered flag, you're going to the playoffs. What is your strategy here as we get ready for the second half of this race at Talladega, and what an impressive race you've had so far tonight?
Yeah, my strategy's just been try to stay at the front of the pack here and keep the nose clean. The middle portion of the pack seems kind of scary to me, so just keep it up front. And yeah, obviously win and I'm in.
Definitely. What's your take of the first half of the race, and what do you think we're going to see for part two?
The first half of the race actually has been a lot better than I initially thought it would be, and I think the second half you're going to start seeing it ramp up a little bit more with maybe a little more three-wide racing and stuff up front.
Hey, final question as we get ready for the restart. You're in the second position. What was your take about changing the paint scheme up from the neon yellow you've always had?
Getting back to something I've always ran in green. All my race cars in real life are green, and just trying to get something closer to what I would normally run at a Saturday night short track.
Well, Justin and Greg, they normally say green is a bad luck color in racing. That's superstitious. I could still call hogwash on that. Some of the greats had success in green cars. Dan Lowther trying to continue that virtual momentum here tonight at Talladega with the best run currently he's had of his career this season.
Thank you, Wesley. We'll see how that green and orange car does on this restart. Second place is where he scored at the moment. Bruce Weaver in control of the field. Bozier and Harrison, row 2. Corey Walters, Josh Marcy, row 3. Vining and Burke, row 4. Anderson and Frazier are in row 5. Drivers looking to make it to the end on fuel. Going to be tight, but will they stay green is the big question. Restart zone this time. Bruce Weaver waiting for the green. He's off and away.
Weaver in control of the restart in the 40, gets it going. What does Dan Lowther do? Does he get down in front of the 42? No, he stays on the outside. Going to have to fall back and hook up perhaps with Corey Walters as Bozier gets a run on the inside. This could help him, though, because look how far ahead Weaver is already.
Have to see how they go, though. That's a little bit too further up. Big run now on the outside. That's Ricky Bozier looking to take away the lead. Dan Lowther looking to follow suit.
Lowther tries to follow on the outside.
Frazier electing to try and go back as well to the back of the pack.
Yep, Frazier doing the backtrack now. He's falling to the back. Meanwhile, Dan West Jr. is creeping up for the first time. He's trying to crack the top 10 for the first time tonight. He was caught up in that first incident back around lap 25 or so.
Of note, I should rather say, Roy Grande now out of the race as your second DNF from that incident. Remember, he used the fast repair. Rick Heffley forced to serve a black flag under green. He'll have to come down and lose his lap. He was the lucky dog for the caution flag. But now with drivers knowing they are likely good to go on the fuel, Greg, this is what I like to call the know I'm safe. I know I'm safe, rather. It's time to start pushing kind of moment that you usually see in these types of races.
Not quite calm before the storm. We're past that point, but we're not quite in the storm yet, if that makes sense. The storm's just beginning to brew here at Talladega. We're going to be 35 laps to go as soon as we get to the stripe. Right now it's Dan Lowther out front in the In-Front Motorsports, number 63. Got Ricky Bozier and Corey Walters on the outside. Lowther, and not just in iRacing and of course in Circle Track. He's also a member of what's called Northwest Thunder, Justin, flat track motocross racer nationwide, part of a group of Northwest riders who took the national scene by storm over the last 10 years or so. They call themselves Northwest Thunder. He's gone back to those days and he's thrown Northwest Thunder on board both his cup car and his truck for the playoffs.
It's definitely working out. You say what you want to say about the superstitions. His car is having the best luck it's had in a while. Now, Ricky Bozier also following suit. Corey Walters there you've seen trying to get the lead lap on the outside line, your Daytona winner, who's already locked himself in. That top line starting to dissipate, though. Many of these drivers now getting to the bottom, and we mentioned the fuel numbers. it's still a bit tight if this goes to the end. If we get a caution, everyone's good to go.
That's why you're seeing some drivers hang back in the draft right now. Save that much more fuel before getting ready to go. If they can save just that much more fuel moving forward, they should be good to go going for it. But for guys like Dan Lowther and now Caden Anderson, who's leading the way on the outside, might not be the case as much.
Caden Anderson electing jump on behind. And a bit of bobbling as near contact between Jeff Hagan again and Carl Burke. The 27 is all over the track.
Jeff Hagan, who had a good run going, was up near the top 5 when that last incident happened, which triggered the last big one, has since not been able to get up there. Remember, these drivers are allowed 1 fast repair, but the big one here, Justin, unlimited tires and fuel. And here at Talladega, that you don't necessarily think it could help, but it definitely could, especially late in the run.
Yeah, in recent weeks and recent months especially, it's where you're able to go a bit more full throttle, if anything, because with the more worn tires, in theory, you're forced to get a bit more off the gas for some of the corner entries, especially in fixed racing.
So these unlimited tires and pit every chance you get. You don't see that a lot. A lot of times you see tire or limitations in certain series on iRacing. Of course, it's to the league owner's discretion, but this one, no tire rule. Go out as many as you can use in this race. 1 fast repair, and noticing a trend also, more and more series going away from that 1 fast repair. More and more series are going with the no fast repair rule. You got what you got. Northwest Racing Series still holding on to that 1 fast repair rule. It definitely comes in handy in this race.
Yeah, especially with the chances of big ones here as Walters backs off. BJ Tedrick is trying to get one of his laps back, I believe, though, in the car in front of Walters. You see that red 72 charging up. Remember, a couple laps down, he can get to 1 lap down if he can somehow become the lead car of the pack.
Has to get up on the outside, it looks like, and he's trying to do that, trying to use the side draft there, make it 3 wide by himself in the 72. Whoa, Hagan throwing the block, and Tedrick's not going to be happy with that one as he's just trying to get back up there on the 1 lap down mark as they go back past Rick Heffley into number 62. That'll put Heffley 2 laps down. So now Heffley being scored on the same lap as Tedrick. Tedrick has to get back around him to get himself back into that position. Looks like he's going to be able to here as Tedrick, I believe he received a black flag earlier under that caution, which he led a lap, which is what led to that, as he is now gets around Heffley. So he is going to move up now into 26th position, but he's still going to be scored 2 laps down.
Yeah, that's because, again, at the quick yellow tracks, you pit with the pit road closed, you'll have to serve a stop and hold 40 seconds in some cases. Talladega is one of those tracks that you have to serve that penalty. And that's now cost him potentially a shot for the win unless he gets a lot of luck here. Marcy's luck is starting to run out. A bit of technical problems there. That's going to cause some problems now with the top line. They're going to be forced to check up a ton.
Yeah, that's going to be big here in the number 35 if he doesn't get that resolved. And now Weaver should be okay in the 40s, but if you're Carl Burke, and who is that behind him? Jeff Hagan in the 27. If you're those guys, your heart rate's raising up a little bit, knowing that Marcy's connection is going sour.
Normally we don't touch upon it too much because at most tracks you can get away with it at times. Here though, you have it happen in the pack, you're likely causing the big one. If you two at the wrong moment, it's in the wall. BJ Tedrick squeezed up by Hagan again. Huge checkup by Torres. No caution flag. What in the world is going on with that 27? He's once again drifted up whenever a car's gotten to his outside.
That was a great job of avoiding that by Chris Torres in the 99. Fortunately, those two are working together this evening. The Team Ramrod cars that they usually see, Tedrick and Frazier, they are working with the likes of Lowther, Cheney, and Chris Torres has joined forces with them tonight as well. Oh, another car having connection issues. That's now on the inside line. Rick Heffley in the 42 having connection issues. That's beginning to plague the field now a little bit more.
Yeah. Hate touching upon it and me being that the focus, but you need to be careful with that when you go super speedway racing. There's a lot of superstitions about that, for example, at Daytona's Super Speedway race in the Coke Series a few weeks back, to say the very least. But your main pack, as a result of all the checkups at the moment, features 14 cars covered by 1 second, side by side, 4 rows deep, up towards the front. Walter's trying to bring James Thurston with him. That's a name we haven't talked about too much in the past couple months, is that 2 car. So.
Okay. And remember, Justin, the last times we saw him, he was running very well in that number 2 car. In fact, I can't remember if it was in the truck race or the cup race, but it was at Michigan. He stole a podium in that number 2 entry. So we haven't talked about him a whole lot, but when we do, he's been very strong in that number 2 car. Quiet night tonight, got through one of the big ones earlier. Here he is riding around in 13th position at the line, falls back to 14th, but doing a nice job in that number 2.
The Pied Piper, though, is still Dan Lowther, and with the field numbers tight, he's trying to save a ton. That's why I think the bottom line's checking up so much, where they're really trying to back it on down the straightaways. Normally you can hit up to 201 miles an hour at full throttle. They're going off the corners at about 195 and trying to stick it as most of 199 in terms of speed up as the lead cars.
As you see them right now, they're playing the finesse game. You would think Talladega, you want to be wide open the whole way, but not necessarily the case here with this current aero package. You want to let off just a little bit to make sure you don't run over the guy in front of you. We saw that a lot in practice, not just earlier today, but yesterday as well, as Frank Harris getting a run with help from another 4 behind him, Bruce Lee Weaver. And who is that in the triple 3 behind him? The Catman back in the top 5.
James Vining, who needs a win, just outside the top 16. Bit of a checkup on the bottom side, though. A little bit close for comfort for Dan Lowther. Big bobble there as they talk on the radio there. Of note as well, Anderson was able to cut by Jeff Hagan, and Hagan had nearly came down across the nose of Anderson off in turn 1.
One car being squeezed to the outside. That would be Toby Ritters in the 23 going 2 laps down now. 3 wide back there as Anderson in the middle. But here comes Carl Burke. Got the fast repair in that 53, and he is moving back to the front.
What can I say? If you leave that lane open, normally some drivers leave a full car length between each other down the straights. Cars are going to try and take advantage. Anderson's doing exactly that. Dan Lowther now follows with him.
Dan Lowther might be going into a little bit of defensive mode here for the next couple laps. Settle things down, led some laps, got some time up front. Now trying to set himself up for the next run. There he is in the 63. Oh, trouble! The leader.
Bruce Lee Weaver turned around. Big one at the front of the field. Burke is in it. Caution flag is out. Swank yellow flag up in the air as several cars spin towards the pit lane.
That's a big one for the points. Weaver was trying to fight his way into the playoffs. BJ Titterick has parked it behind the wall before this happened. Justin, here we go. Racing for the lead. Weaver and Vining were breaking away. 2 drivers who needed a win.
And another bump draft in the middle of the corner. Once again, you do not want a bump draft in a cup car in the middle of the corner. That's exactly what they did, and Vining hooks around Weaver and causes a second big one.
Caden Anderson involved. But did you see who made it through? The guy who's fighting for his playoff life, Dan Lowther, was the first car through that in the 63.
Frank Harris in it. Anderson was able to drift around and just avoid the wall. Bozer is in it. Several others involved. Here's the look from the 63. Wow. That gets in the lead.
That could also potentially be the move that gets him into the playoffs, because a lot of his fellow guys who he was racing with for that spot in the playoffs just got caught up in that.
And several of them already used a fast repair. See how many cars are forced to get damage repair. 23 to go. Wesley, that changes a lot as several of the cars involved have to come down to the pit lane while others looking to top off to make sure they're good for a GWC.
Yeah, definitely another big wreck. Honestly, the 3 cautions we've had so far have been big multi-car pileups. As here comes Dan Lowther. What an attaboy for him. Able to go to the top shelf, miss that big one. Good job. He's at his pit stall as the leader in car 63. Caden Anderson is in. Paulison is in. Thurston, Marcy, Campbell. Some going to have to go on the damage clock to try to get those damages fixed. Other guys just trying to get strategy. 4 tires and fuel. Dan Lowther is already exiting off of pit lane. Dan Lowther in first, exits first. Dan West Jr., the points leader. He's starting to now show his stripes in the late rally. So is also Corey Walters. James Vining, the Catman. No harm, no foul. Doesn't seem like a lot of damage on his car. Thurston, Paulison, Chris White, all of these drivers exiting now off the pit lane. And gentlemen, as I said, you have to have high hopes for Dan Lowther. Everybody, I can say this, I could attest to this, Justin and Greg, everybody on this series, as a viewer, who have followed this year and the bad luck Lowther has had, is going to be rooting for the 63. The underdog here tonight is Dan Lowther. I'd love to see him win here at Talladega and clinch himself into the playoffs.
And he's been having some good strides and good improvement the past couple weeks or so. This could be huge for him in his sim racing career if he can hold on. Of note, by the way, James Vining pit with the lane closed as the caution had come out. Since he was involved in it, that's why he'll have to sacrifice track position. Among the drivers on the clock, Anderson, Marcy, Burke, Childress, Hagen, all having to get significant damage repairs done this caution. Also getting repairs done, Tyler Kane, Seth Frazier, Robert Gambill, Eric Cheney, Chris Torres, as well as Stephen O'Hare. James Vining, as mentioned, also got a bit of damage repair done under the yellow flag. So, now 22 laps to go. Everybody good to go, even with GWCs. This may get even more crazy with the 21-lap shootout to go from this point when the green flag flies next time by.
Going to be a wicked one, Justin. It is go time now. Strap the belt, or pull the straps tight, because we are going to get ready for a wild one here at Talladega. We're going to be about 21 to go when we go green.
Couple cars going for a wave around to get some laps back there. You see them up towards the front of the pit line. That's Kevin Smith looking to get 1 lap down. Oh, but Toby Ritter's also William Fletcher, who had his problems down the backstretch and had to use a tow at one point. They'll get 1 lap back and have a chance to compete with Josh Marcy and Josh Childress for the Lucky Dog. Again, 1 to go signal this time by your race leaders. Dan Lowther on the bottom, Dan West Jr. on the top, row 2, Walters and Thurston, Paulison and White, Annenbacher and Bozier, Stabnow and Brightsman. Your top 10, Greg.
Top 10 rundown, rolling in 11th. After the incident, still fighting for his life is Bruce Lee Weaver in the 11, Frank Harris, Stephen O'Hare, Eric Cheney, haven't mentioned Big Bird yet, he's up in 14th position in the 71. Chris Torres working with the likes of Lowther, Tidrick, Frazier and company in 15th tonight. Tyler King was up in the front early. Seth Frazier, we talked about him going on the roller coaster ride earlier today. He's in 17th. Gamble, Vining, and Anderson, your top 20.
Those are all the cars on the lead lap. Carl Burke also on the lead lap, but getting significant damage done, and that could be a substantial one depending on how things shake out here, especially with the race Frank Harris has had tonight. Burke was the first car not locked into the points quite yet. He was 11th in the standings with the drop weeks factored in. So Burke needs some luck now in the number 53 to have a shot.
Gonna have to fight for it, and it is go time now. There is no hanging back now. You gotta go and you gotta get what you got here in this one. Stabnow and Brightsman, 2 drivers we have not mentioned their names except for being caught up in that first incident, in the top 10 now, Justin. And Stabnow, he's one of those drivers sporting the pink car for breast cancer awareness this week. He's been very quiet tonight, but could he possibly get up there and make another possum move and play possum for the win? It's
been that type of a season for Brightsman. second all-time in victory. Stab now amongst the top 5 as well. Dan West Jr. also in that grouping, looking to try and see what they can do with 21 laps to go. For the first time tonight, the 63 in control of the field. We're underway again. A good launch for the top line.
Nice job by West Jr. to get that position on the outside. That's one of the better restarts we've seen on the top line all day. He's hooked up now with James Thurston in the number 2. Lowther, meanwhile, on the inside, hooked up with Daytona winner Corey Walters in the number 9. Lowther able to clear off of turn number 2. Let's see what West Jr. can do on the outside with a big push from Thurston and company behind him.
Massive checkup on the bottom. Dan West Jr. to the race lead. Thurston looking to get him clear. Neither of them like to go down, and into the wall they go. Chris White gets turned. Another crash. Lowther again, able to hold on to the stripe. The swag yellow flag includes Ricky Boser, Seth Frazier again, O'Hare, Frank Harris. Several contenders, and Bruce Lee Weaver is in it again.
That's going to end Weaver and Frazier's night for sure, because they've already used the fast repair. Believe West Jr. is going to be the race leader at the time of caution as Thurston gets the wall and it bobbles down and it's on from there.
I'm surprised they didn't try to take the bottom there, both Thurston and Dan West Jr. And normally you can stick the top that time, though. Thurston just didn't time up the turn right, if that makes sense.
Just couldn't quite get the entry correct in that number 2, and you see what happened as he just scraped the wall, and unfortunately everyone behind him had to check up. Meanwhile, we got a new race leader, Dan West Jr. in the 55. Lowther going to be second in the number 63. How about Corey Walters showing once again the restrictor plate tracks seem to be strong for him.
Especially with the survivability, and that's what the scoring loops with the push, by the way. Dan Lowther had taken the edge in the scoring loop after, when the caution flag came out after what was happening behind Dan West Jr. But Bruce Lee Weaver is out. Have to wait to official points to see how things fare out in this one for him. Remember, his closest competition did not start tonight. Either of them. For the top 16, have to see if where he'll finish will be enough. John Ottenbacher had to use a tow. Paulison also had a 59-second pit stop. Also into the pit lane this time, Chris White, along with Jeff Stabnow, Robert Gambill, Eric Cheney, Frank Harris, Sean Brightsman, Stephen O'Hare, all in, Wesley, this time with significant damage.
Yeah, and as I'm also looking here, only 12 drivers are going to make it to the West Bay Napa Auto Parts playoff whenever it kicks off next Monday night at Atlanta Motor Speedway. So again, there's a lot of storylines, a lot of things happening here as the race progresses. And again, what a tough break for Bruce Lee Weaver. He started this race on the pole 17th, but again, as you said, a lot of drivers not able to be around him making the race. And as we see that, we see Eric Cheney on pit road, Stephen O'Hare, we mentioned him in the number 41 machine. He's also trying to make it into the points. You know, he has no wins. He's starting in 12th in the points going into tonight's event. But obviously a win would solidify that. Same thing as we're seeing with Dan Lowther, who's on the outside looking in, and now the man dominating Dan West Jr. But all these cars, Chris White, Ricky Bozier, Frank Harris, Ottenbacher, Jeff Hagan, all of these machines having to come to the pit lane for service. All the cautions having been big ones, and I don't think we were expecting that, Justin and Greg, and I don't think we're done yet.
I don't think we're expecting that absolutely off the first lap, because normally it takes about a lap or so for cars to get up to speed, and then in some cases, in GWCs especially, you see some of the trouble fly. Not usually into turn 3 on lap 1 off the restart, and now we'll see how these drivers play this race, because majority of the drivers have clean cars inside the top 10. A couple, though, have significant damage that can hamper them the rest of this race here, Greg, to have any sort of shot, because any sort of damage can hurt you significantly. In some cases, can cause your car to overheat, as seen by drivers throughout the summertime.
And that happened in practice yesterday. Dan West Jr. was overheating just a little bit, blew his motor in practice at one point. So we've seen it here in practice for this race that can happen. So it's all a matter of how you can take care of your car from here on, and who's done a nice job of doing that. Guys like West, Lowther, Walters, and Thurston. But I'm worried about the two of Thurston. He caught the wall pretty significantly there. Still in fourth right now. Car looks okay on the left side, but I gotta say I am a little worried about that 2 car.
Has a bit of damage on the right front after that huge smack to the outside wall. One to go signal this time by Dan West Jr. Dan Lowther in control of the field this time. Corey Walters, clean car. James Thurston involved with the caution flag, has a bit of damage. Chris Torres was also among the drivers who had to slam on the brakes for the incident. He's got a bit of a clean car. Seth Frazier, he's already used his fast repair with some damage on the right side of the car. James Vining was involved in the caution flag. That and the longest line penalty after the crash does not affect him. Caden Anderson with significant back end damage. Tyler King in the 44 machine, currently with a bit of a cleaner car. Robert Gambill also with a bit of a clean car after his incident early on in this one. So there were several key players still with some good speed. However, with just about everybody now using a fast repair, it's whoever survives, it looks like, towards the checkered if anything happens again, Greg.
Oh, it's go time, Justin. It is fight for your survival now. Noticing one car who has some damage on the left rear, and it's a guy who was making some noise early, Caden Anderson, the 37. He is in 8th right now, damage on the left rear of his Harvest Chevrolet Camaro. So keep your eyes on that moving forward. But as the cars with damage make more and more laps, like you mentioned, especially guys like Thurston who have damage on the front, have to start watching those temperatures. Make sure the engine does not overheat. The last thing you want to be is up near the front of a pack and then all of a sudden have the motor expire. I was calling a race at Daytona earlier this year where that happened. The car second in line blew the motor on the white flag lap, and it was interesting, we'll say that.
It's been an intriguing race, as O'Hare should note did back into the car for a bit to view what had happened in the incident. He's now back among the drivers in the top 15 for now. Chris White, John Ottenbacher, though, are both currently out of the race. Here we go. 17 to go from Talladega. Green flag is out.
West Jr. trying to get out front. He does a nice job for West Jr., but here comes the other Dan Lowther back on the outside.
Corey Walters with a good run on the bottom side. Of note, they may have Stephen Paulison charging hard, as in the wall goes Breitzman. Couple other cars spinning in turn 2. No caution yet. Harris to the wall. There goes the lucky dog for the caution flag in the 97. We're now under yellow as Childress against the wall.
Another caution.
And our swag yellow flag. Here's a look at what happened. This is in turn 2 where it developed here, getting up to speed on that top line.
Keep your eye on Bryson, that bright purple 46. Oh!
That was Gambo. He blew up.
That was exactly what we just talked about, Justin. Blowing up when you're in the middle of the draft. Last thing you want to have happen, it just happened right there.
Took a full corner to fully develop, but Breitzman significant damage. There's Gambo with a blown motor, and Josh Childress, who was 2 laps down at one point, ends up getting hooked. That is the main trigger. And all of that, here's a look from the back end.
Okay, right there you see the motor go, and Breitzman was unfortunately right up there on Gamble. Nowhere for him to go except up to the wall. Heartbreaker for Breitzman. Fortunately, he's locked in the playoffs as he leads the series and wins.
Talk about timing. Worst timing possible there, Wesley, with what just happened in turn 2.
Yeah, tough break there for Robert Campbell and car number 54. He is out here tonight at Talladega. Robert, what's your take on what happened, bud?
Just blew up. I don't know. We got going and started shifting, and then she went. So I didn't think I had much damage, but I was in a couple of those wrecks. So
craziness here tonight at Talladega, would you say?
Oh, yeah, it's Talladega. It's always going to be crazy. You know, it's fun, but it's going to be nuts.
And obviously, I know that you are not in the top 12 to make it for the West Bay Napa Auto Parts playoff championship run, but are we going to still see the car number 54, throughout the playoffs?
You will absolutely see the car 54. I love running in this series. I want to give a shout out to you guys at LSR TV because you're how I found this series. I just got into iRacing earlier this year and started watching the series and said, you know what, I think I can do that.
Well, that's an awesome testimony. I know Charles Wooten will definitely appreciate that a lot. Car 54, where are you? Robert Gamble blowing up. He is out of the race, but still, Justin and Greg, high spirits as he will make a run to at least get a checkered flag before the end of the postseason of 2020.
Thank you, Wesley. 2 lap to go signal this time. Walter's now up to second with the time at the caution flag, but man, now it comes down to 13 laps when we get back underway, and several cars now get the chance to get repairs once again. Paulison, Childress, Bozer, Harris, Brightsman, O'Hare among those who take this opportunity. They're running out of laps to try and calculate how they want to make these moves for the win here, Greg.
Running out of laps to calculate that, but speaking of calculations, the good news here, Justin, all these cautions late in the race, that's helping them save fuel. They were still kind of on the cusp of being able to go the rest of the way. Now we pretty much know for sure they can.
Yeah. Well, they're good to go for sure if there's a GWC situation, but now, if you want to try and win this race, what would you do in terms of moves and how to form things up properly for the checkered?
If I was to try, I would try to be tucked up behind someone who I know would be on a similar strategy as me throughout the course of the day, and try to formulate with them, okay, when do you want to make your move, and at which point, who do you want to lead? Do you want me to lead? Do you want the other guy to lead? You have to figure that out with the guys you're going to work with from here on, and at that point, it's all about finding the hole. If it goes guys, outside here, you're good. Inside there, you're good.
Justin and Greg, hey, listen, so I'm going back and forth to different chatter, listening to communications with all these different drivers and crews, and the funniest one of all, Jeff Stabnow in 11th. He says, and I quote, "What's going on with these guys here tonight? They got no brakes." And an expletive was used, but I will not repeat it on a professional family broadcast.
Well, can see what he's trying to say, because it can be difficult to check up here. A lot of drivers have that, how do I put the struggle on making sure they back it on down when the whole track starts to get blocked up with situations like this, Greg.
Yeah, it can definitely happen in a hurry as you just kind of let off the throttle a little bit and try to back it down. Oh, hey, there's a car in my windshield. Where did that come from? It happens in the blink of an eye at Talladega.
No joke. At Talladega, in some cases, checking up for incidents, there was a sequence where I got ran over by 5 drivers, or this may have been Daytona rather, 5 cars in 3 different races checking up for incidents. Or 3 different cautions, rather.
That happens. It's a thing at Talladega that'll just get you every time, and it gets frustrating when that happens if you're just trying to stay out of trouble, and then all of a sudden some guy sneaks up behind you, and you're in all of a sudden in an entirely different mess that wasn't any of your doing. It gets frustrating, so it can wear on you, especially in a race with as much on the line as a playoff cutoff race.
So to reset, again, among the drivers looking to scrap for playoff positioning. At the moment, Ricky Bozer is in 18th. Harris is in 16th without a front clip. Also scrambling for position is Dan Lowther. He's in the best position to try and get a win. Now, Wesley, you're standing by in the pit lane.
Yeah, Jeff Stabnow, have you found your brakes yet?
Mine are working. I'm just not sure about everybody else's, darn it. I don't know what's going on out here, man. It's a wreck fest.
Hey, listen, first off, it's good to have you back again as always, Jeff. I love your demeanor as always and your personality. But second of all, does it make you feel comfortable, like Dan West Jr., Brightsman, and others that have won races, knowing as we get ready for a restart, you can survive this wild card and you know you're going to the West Bay Napa Auto Parts postseason?
Oh, absolutely. They're telling me I've got damage, so I don't even think I could get to the front if I wanted to. And chances are we'll have another caution that'll kill me here. So, yeah, I wouldn't have near this demeanor if I wasn't in the playoffs already.
Some people on high tension, other people having good spirits as we get ready, Justin, to come back for the restart and a shootout here at Talladega. That's Jeff Stabnow.
Thank you, Wesley. 13 to go. Green flag coming in this time by. And Dan West Jr. off and away. The whole bottom line gets a great launch. The top line caught sleeping again.
And floor it. As we go back to the green flag as West Jr. leading the way in the 55. Look who's hooked up with this inside line. Hello, Seth Frazier. Paul Bear's Funeral Homes has suddenly cracked the podium now, Justin.
Up to P3. Thurston up to P5. Anderson backing up with some of his damage meanwhile. A bit more smoother and less packy to start off this run with several of the drivers up at the front with damage that's holding them up.
And that damage is just going to keep them held back more and more throughout the course of this one as West leads the way. Lowther second. Lowther has done a fantastic job keeping it clean thus far. And then number 63. Clean and green is usually something we say about the race as a whole, not a car, but he's done a fantastic job in that number 63 car. Again, throwing it back to one of his old late models. And then number 63 trying to go for the lead in the 55, shuts the door. Justin, that was almost bad because they almost had another bump draft in the corner.
Yeah, that could have been terrible. Meanwhile, the pack is closed up to speed now. Torres, Childress, Anderson, and Vining yet again is bump drafting in the middle of the corner and just backed up. The whole bottom line is stacking up. Several cars lined up. There are only 3 on the top, coming to 11 to go.
Hey, Childress is on the lead lap in the number 97. By the way, look who else is joining the mix right now. Big Bird is in this lead draft. Eric Cheney in the number 71. He is making his way up. He's in 11th now in this one. But how about some of these guys up in the front right now? Dan West Jr. started 26th, leads the race. Seth Frazier, 24th, 3rd. Corey Walters started 27th, 4th. Eric Cheney took an EOL at the start of the race. He's back up in near the top 10 now. Now we're starting to see these guys hustle their way back to the front. What is Sean Brightsman doing with a torn up race car still on the lead lap in 12th right now? He has no tail or no bumper cover on that 46 car. He's still up on the lead lap trying to get things done.
In fact, he's working with Tower King and Jeff Stabnow. You see all this for the back bumper of Lowther as they all shuffle about 10 laps to go. This time by trouble in turn 2. No caution yet. O'Hare and a couple others involved here. Ricky Bozier also involved. Several slow cars on the apron.
And we're all off the racing surface right now, so we are clean and green still. They all get going on the apron as Walters gets a nice run. This is what we talked about earlier in the race, Justin. The outside lane, faster on the straightaways, but then in the corner, watch the inside, the Dan and Dan show. Come back on the inside. Ooh, a big slide there. And a nice save by everybody as West able to get back out to the lead. Lowther in second, right on the back bumper. He gets the nose in front of Walters.
Jeff Hagan had blown up and caused that trouble just referred to in turn 2. Ricky Bozier had tried to dodge and collected O'Hare. They're now a lap down. We'll see if we stay green with Hagan crawling on the apron in turn 3. Still shuffling about. Lowther pushing Dan West Jr. 9 laps to go. Coming to 8 this time by.
West leads. Lowther trying to break away from second, trying to set up a run. If you're the guy like Dan Lowther, right now you are trying to fight for a spot in the playoffs. You know you could get in if you finish here, but you want to get that exclamation point and get in off a win. When do you make your move?
It's getting dicey right now and some trouble on the bottom apron as mentioned with Hagan crawling. He's nearly towards a trigger spot for Yo's. Chris White is also closing in. Wesley, to you.
Corey Walters right now laying everything on the line. He's in that Hooters number 9 machine, battling alongside Dan West Jr. with help along the way. Hey, he hasn't won since the opening race of the season back at Daytona. How long has that been? Since March? This is super speedway racing. Walters shines. He's ready to try to put it in victory lane in the final race of the regular round of the season.
Remember, there's also a playoff point on the line with the victory, so this could help you for your championship quest as if you are a driver with a shot for the title. Bit of a slide up for Dan West Jr. in the middle of the corner. Again, 9 cars in the main pack. Anderson just holding onto the draft in 10th. 3 other cars lined up in the second stanchion.
Trying to hold it up as we come up again on Toby Ritters in the 23. Going to go another lap down. Had such a strong run he did in the Orville Redenbacher 23. Unfortunately, not going to be the finish he wanted, as we are still side by side between West and Walters. Thurston up there in the number 2. Again, we haven't seen him in a while, but again, a great performance out of him in that number 2 as West Jr. goes down on the inside for the lead. The Dans are hooked up right now when Seth Frazier hanging back there as well. Remember, Lowther, his team, and Frazier's team working together tonight.
So if you are knowing you have friends up here for tonight, when do you make the move to try and win this race?
If I can get clean, as in get in front of the outside line and make it single file, at least for us, you can wait till possibly going into turn 3. But if you're side by side like we are right now, you may want to start thinking about it before you even get to the white flag.
6 laps to go that time. Walters nearly got clear. Dan West Jr. still controls the bottom. 4 cars are on the top. Chris Torres among the drivers looking to win his first race of the season of the Cup Series. Vining needing a win and some great points to have any sort of shot to get to the top 16. And remember, you mentioned Childress and Cheney. They're still hooked on. This could go to anybody based on how this night's gone.
This really could. Torres is another one who's working with Lowther, Frazier, Cheney, and others in there. Caden Anderson down there in with them as well. All working together. And by the way, Lowther and West spent quite a few laps in practice last night drafting together. They know what to expect of each other here moving forward. So could that play a role in how this race unfolds?
5 to go. This time by. Backing up once again. Lowther nearly got clear that time of the bottom side. Here comes the side draft again from Walters.
Trying to hit a run. Walters on the outside. Here comes Thurston with a run on the top. Trying to get a run, but West fights back. Lowther able to clear. This is it. This is what Lowther needed, and he knows it as he's going for the lead on the outside.
Coming up to 4 laps to go, Dan Lowther has had a dream drive, looking for his first win of the season to lock himself into the playoffs. West Jr. leads to the stripe. More cars up to the top. Jeff Stabnell's there. Cheney now with a bit of contact with Torres.
Torres and Cheney get together, but look at Cheney, 4th in line on the inside now, trying to get hooked up with Childress again. Walters giving a push to Lowther, but Walters took a peek to the inside, but Lowther gets a nice run down the backstretch. Lowther back to the lead.
Thurston now working with Torres with a big run with Vining as well. Jeff Stabnell trying to hook on. Tyler Kane also within the grouping. Walters trying as hard as he can here to try and push him to get himself clear once again. Just can't get the run yet.
2-car tango on the outside just about as Walters gets a nice push to Lowther. Up in front, can the Boise, Idaho driver clear West? Yes, he can, just barely. Lowther to the lead as they squeak through lap traffic. Just 3 laps to go.
Several lap cars dodging out of the way for the battle for the win. Comes down to 11 drivers, all covered by just 0.6 of a second. Up the track goes Bozer to move out of the way. The top line, though, is starting to die off here. Walters doesn't have any help.
Walters losing it in the number 9. Bozer caught the wall on the outside there as they try to sort it through. Stabnell still up there as well. Going to be 2 laps to go when they get to the stripe, but that's still a mile away on the track. Lowther leading. West trying to size him up for a move.
Hey, Justin, Dan Lowther, he said, and I quote, "I'm going for it. I have to. It's to the postseason."
And he's definitely going for it strong. 2 to go this time. Again, if they get the white flag, the race is official.
All or nothing for Dan Lowther in front motorsports. Trying to hold on, get his first career win, and punch a ticket to the postseason. He's got West behind him. Frazier back there as well.
Lap traffic up ahead. Frank Harris, Stephen Paulson, Kevin Smith among the drivers just up the track. But the question's going to be, who will lead towards the checkered? White flag coming this time by. Most of the drivers now shuffle to the bottom. Who will make a move for the win? To the trial they go one more time.
Here we go through the trial of a white flag in Barney's hand. White flag, 1 lap to go for Dan Lowther. He's got Van West pushing him.
Swag, 1 lap to go. Race is now official. Walters trying to make a move to the outside. Lap traffic moves out of the way. Childress now trying to take a peek with Seth Frazier with the push from behind.
Frazier and Childress, 2 of the Wenatchee boys hooked up. There's the move by West Jr. into number 55.
And a triple bump draft coming in hard on the back bumper of Dan Lowther. West Jr.'s freight train. No help from the top line as Walters checks out.
Can Frazier get a run now in the 32? He has not led a lap all night long. This could be his shot. Here comes Childress trying to run on the outside.
Childress gets turned. Big crash. Walters in the crash. Kane with them. Checkered flag.
Yes!
Dan Lowther is in the postseason. He wins at Talladega.
Dan Lowther, first career Northwest Cup Series victory. Eric Cheney, third. It's a 1, 2, 3 for the Northwest Tour boys.
Justin, I called it. Remember, before halfway, I said Dan Lowther is going to win this race. He had to. Strategy. Everything pulls off. I am like a kid in a candy store right now. If we've followed his whole season, this is awesome. Hell of a job for Dan Lowther. I'm happy for him right now. Congratulations.
How do you think I feel, Wesley? That's my team. Those are my teammates right there. That's our first Cup win.
You gotta love this guy, Justin. You gotta love Dan Lowther. You got to.
He's probably losing his mind in that cockpit right now. What a finish. That was the best race he's had all season, Greg, in the 63.
Unbelievable. Dan Lowther needs a win to get in. He gets it done, and he is going to burn it down here at Talladega. His first Northwest Racing Series victory. And guys, no bigger way to do it.
Guys, I just went down to his communication and I said, Dan Lowther, congratulations, you did it. He said, and I quote, haha, I had to.
He definitely had to make the playoffs. Guess what? With the run tonight, he's in. Unofficial race results tonight. See Dan Lowther coming away with the victory. Started in 9th, wins by 6/100ths of a second over Seth Frazier. Eric Cheney with a P3 run after an EOL sent him to the very back of the field after qualifying during the driver's meeting and crashing during the driver's meeting. James Thurston finishes in 4th as he's back in the car for the first time in a few months. Sean Brightsman, with all the craziness, still comes home with a P5. Childress, Kane Torres, Dan West Jr., Jeff Stabnow, your top 10, Greg.
Kevin Smith in the 00 comes home in 11th on the lead lap with Stephen Paulison, James Vinian, and Corey Walters finishing 14th. Final car on the lead lap. You saw Frank Harris and Josh Marcy hook up there at the end. 1 lap down, 15th and 16th. William Fletcher, Caden Anderson, Rick Heffley, and Toby Ritters, your top 20.
21st spot tonight, 3 laps down. Carl Burke going to need to hope for some luck. Was one of the drivers needing to have a good finish to make sure he was in on points. Ricky Bozier, same case. Going to be tight. 22nd is where he finishes, also 3 laps down. He was a contender with Dan Lowther at some points of the night. O'Hare also needed good points. Had not won a race despite being up at the front much of the season. 6 laps down is where he fares in. 24th goes to Chris White, 8 laps down. Jeff Hagan, Robert Gambill, John Ottenbacher, Bruce Lee Weaver, BJ Tidrick, Roy Grande, your top 30. Also out of the race, Chris Walters with monitor trouble. He is your last car in this race. Post-race coverage coming up in just a few moments. What a way to end off the regular season. It's Dan Lowther who wins at Talladega. Stick around. You're watching OSR TV for coverage of the Northwest Racing Series and its Cup Series. Welcome back to LSR TV for the Clan Wars post-race show. Clan Wars, the official communication partner of LSR TV. Gamers hosting gamers worldwide. Tonight, it was Dan Lowther with the victory. And what was a must-win situation? Justin Prince, Greg Wentz, Wesley Utwin with you. Charles Wooden in the director's seat. Let's start from P3. Eric Cheney from dead last with an EOL to P3. He's standing by with Wesley to start.
Yeah, man, this is a special team. How about those Northwest Tour drivers and teammates all in the top 3 here tonight to round out the regular season at Talladega? Eric Cheney, you had a penalty, and you had to overcome it from the tail. You finished 3rd place in this race tonight.
Yeah, I just tucked in behind my teammates, and we just kind of had a plan and tried to execute it. It was amazing. My first race out of I don't know how many attempts that I actually finished. And I did get caught up in a couple wrecks, from other people. Had to use my fast repair with, I think, about 20 to go. But other than that, it was just awesome. It was fun.
I think suffice to say, almost everybody in the race one time or another had to get repairs or use a fast repair. What was your take of this race tonight?
We kind of laid in the back for about the first half, and those guys are up there just like 3 wide, one time I think 4 wide, and it's just crazy. I mean, I kind of figured it was going to be a lot more wrecks than what there were, but everybody did a pretty good job for the most part.
We'll talk to the second and winner here in a minute. I know with Frazier and Lowther, but what's your take of you drivers, all teammates finishing in the top 3 here at Talladega? This has got to be special.
Yeah, very special.
All right. Got anybody you want to thank sponsors?
I don't have any sponsors, but I do want to thank LSR TV. I want to thank Sean Breitzman and Jeff Stabnow for putting this on. And I want to thank all the people for having a little patience with me, figuring it took me a little longer to catch on, but I think I got it now.
You're the man. Big Bird, Eric Cheney, car number 71. He'll finish 3rd here tonight. Greg Rance is standing by, but his teammate, Seth Frazier, in the 32. He finishes 2nd.
And Seth, it was a quiet night for you. You went to Six Flags at one point in the race, going for a wild ride, but used the fast repair and just patiently worked your way up there.
Yeah, thanks to Miller Lite, I was able to keep racing and, not fall asleep.
Hey Seth, tell us about Talladega, because it's a wild card out there, man. You were already locked in the playoffs, so you could afford to just kind of hang back and not push it a whole lot, and you still wind up in 2nd. So what was your mindset going into this race, just being able to hang back there?
Well, I want to try to help one of my teammates get in on the points if we could, and if not, then I was just going to close my eyes like everyone does at road course or restrictor plate racing and just see what happened.
Well, Seth, it was a wild end here to the regular season, the 2nd place, but now all the chips are down because we are moving on to the playoffs. You've been locked in for quite some time now. It's on your chance to win a championship, and me and you were talking throughout the course of the summer. You really, really like your chances here in this playoffs.
Well, I really like Phoenix. And that's the championship race, so getting to that point's going to be key. The first round, I'm just going to be worried about more point racing than getting a win. I think that second round of those 4 tracks, you might need to get a win to advance, so probably turn it up a notch then.
It's that playoffs coming up here on LSR TV in the Northwest Cup Series. We got super late models coming up here as well. The iRacing Northwest Tour. All 3 drivers with the 1, 2, 3 tonight going to be in that one. And I know you all got some guys you want to thank. So Seth, who you got on the 32?
Well, I just think Paul Bear for coming on board, and bringing his funeral parlor with him. A big shout out to Dan for getting a win for him tonight. That's pretty awesome. It makes 80 laps of Talladega worth it. I got a question for you though, Greg.
Here we go.
Have you had any luck yet finding a date with any of this?
That would be a negative Ghost Rider.
All right, so we're gonna start a GoFundMe page, I think, for Greg for some speed dating class or something. If he was interested, get a hold of me on Facebook.
All right, sounds good. Seth Frazier, ladies and gentlemen, P2 here at Talladega.
What a run for him tonight, but what a run for Dan Lowther. Tonight, he entered the evening with no laps left on the season, just 1 top 5 and 6 top 10s. He had shown his most improvement in the past couple weeks, especially with some decent runs of late, But in the end, he has the drive of the season. He wins at Talladega, his first career victory in this series. Dan, you did it. How does it feel to win and get yourself into the playoffs?
It's pretty awesome, actually. I mean, that whole race was extremely intense, and I'd been getting better and better with the fixed setup cars all season long, and I just got to thank Seth and Eric for helping me at the end there and help push me to that victory.
Teamwork was something we talked about which could come into play. It came into play tonight, but you went with the strategy of staying up at the front and trying to control the tempo. What went into your thought process throughout the evening, especially with seeing what was happening around you, where you avoided every single big one tonight?
Yeah, just kind of from my personal racing experience in life is you either want to be at the front of a pack like that or at the very tail end of the field. And I got going towards the front there and had good track position all night long and just kind of kept heads up. And I figured if I could stay in that top 5 to 6 range, and I would be okay. And if I could just stay out of the mess, and I was able to accomplish that.
A big victory tonight overall. Unofficially, it is the top 9 we mentioned who are locked in. Dan West Jr., Sean Breitzman, Seth Frazier, Chris White, Jeff Stabnell, Paulison, Audenbacher, Walters, and Tidrick. You, Burke, Bozier. Well, how do you feel about your shot for the championship?
I'm pretty optimistic about that. A lot of these guys ahead of me in the points, they're pretty solid and been in this series for a while. So, if we can just run this thing out in the playoffs and, make it to the second round and maybe cause a little bit of turmoil for those guys and keep improving our finishes would be great.
Anyone you want to thank for the victory tonight that sees you in victory lane for the first time in this series?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely, like I said, got to thank Seth and Eric and all my teammates for helping me during the race, and then LSR TV for putting it on, and Breitzman and Jeff Stabnow for the series, and then In Front Motorsports and Fire Snacks, and then always Northwest Thunder.
Congratulations on the victory tonight. Your first laps of the season, your first win in the series. You're in the playoffs. Congrats.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Dan Lowther wins a crazy one tonight here on LSR TV. And Wesley, turn to you first. You talked about the superstitions about green cars and how some feel it's bad luck. Here's the thing. This is the second driver we've seen in the past couple weeks alone switch to their preferred colors or their real world colors and put on a show. Dan Lowther did that exactly here for Northwest Cup Series action tonight.
He certainly did, and for a driver like Dan Lowther to come from, 15th in the points and then having to do what he had to do to win, looking for that first ever career win, but to do it the way he did, to win, and now advance into the West Bay Napa Auto Parts playoff postseason. This was a great storyline. Always fun being a part of the Northwest Cup Series, gentlemen. We're looking forward now to the playoffs. It's on to Atlanta. It should be hot Atlanta. But again, now everything resets. We'll decide who will be the champion in Season 7 next Monday for another 10 weeks of racing.
And Wesley just mentioned the next race to start the postseason. It's not as simple as similar to the Cup schedule. It's a complete wild card situation for many of the races, Greg. The first round of the West Bay Napa Auto Parts playoff, Atlanta, Watkins Glen, Richmond, the Charlotte Oval. Not an easy slate of races coming up, Greg.
You've got 2, I would say, similar races with Atlanta and Charlotte bookending that, although Atlanta's track surface is a lot more rough. But yeah, you've got 2 intermediate tracks, a road course, and a short track. 3 very different forms of stock car racing here in the Northwest Cup Series. You're going to get a little bit of everything here in these next 4 races to see who moves on to the round of 8, because it's going to be a wild one here in 4 races, Justin. Like you said, Atlanta, Watkins Glen, Richmond, and Charlotte. 3 very different forms of racing, but no doubt you're going to see the guys who have the skills at all of them move forward.
What a night of racing. What a victory. But we'd like to thank you for tuning in for tonight's coverage from the virtual Talladega Superspeedway in Talladega, Alabama. Congratulations to Dan Lowther on his victory tonight here at Talladega. To keep up with Northwest Racing action, the next race for the series and sanctioning body is the Truck Series. They start their playoffs this Thursday at Atlanta. 134 laps are on the docket, 206 miles to see who can start off the postseason in victory lane. The Cup Series will hit the track on Monday. That coverage will start at approximately 11:10 p.m. Eastern Time. That's 8:10 Pacific. We can tell you the points are now official for the drivers locked into the postseason after all the calculations. It is officially Dan West Jr., Sean Brightsman, Seth Frazier, Christopher White, Jeff Stabnow, Stephen Paulison, John Annenbacher, Corey Walters, BJ Tidrick, Dan Lowther, Carl Burke, and Ricky Bozier, your 12-car grid for the postseason for the Cup Series. Congratulations to them, and congratulations to the rest of the Northwest Cup Series on a fabulous race tonight. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you at Hotlanta. You've been watching LSR TV, your home for sim racing.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of LSR TV and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of 52 Media LLC and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. LSR TV would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.